your mic. It's okay. Studio. Mics are up. Good morning, Lagos. You're listening to Smooth 98.1 FM Lagos, and of course, the voices of Folu
and Valentine
here on Smooth Breakfast.
And joining us this morning in the studio, we've got a full panel of analysts. I've got back in the studio. Welcome, Mr. G Quest. How you doing?
Very well, Folu.
Fantastic. Great to have you here. Guys, if you're up on YouTube, you'll see that he's looking particularly summery, even though the rest of us are back to school mode. But welcome. We've also got Orji Uka in the studio. Good morning, Orji.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Excellent. Thank you. Completing the lineup of very relaxed people. And last but certainly not least, we have Ayo Esho. How are you doing, Ayo?
Good morning, Phil. I'm very fine.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us this morning. And we thank you, Lagos and the rest of the world, for joining us up on our live stream on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/smooth981FM, you'll find us exactly there. Or you can simply search for Smooth 981 FM Lagos in the search box up on YouTube.
Also on WhatsApp, you can send us a message. Send it to this number, 0809-444-0981.
Okay. Well, without further ado, let's get into the first story for this morning, shall we? And Orji, I'm going to come to you for this. So the Attorney General of the Federation has confirmed something that a number of us suspected, but the numbers are still staggering. We're talking about the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami. He has decried the situation where apparently inmates awaiting trial constitute 70% of the prison population in the country. I mean, I saw this statistic and my jaw hit the floor because we knew that a lot of people were sitting in prisons awaiting trial, but this is a huge number. What are your thoughts on this story?
I'm happy today, possibly the first time in 3 years, the AGF and I agree on the same thing. Except that I even think the numbers are higher, should be higher. Most of those in prison custody in Nigeria are not convicted, but are awaiting trial. Some trials are ongoing, others no trials at all. About 2-3 weeks ago, I explained on Twitter the concept of holding charge, which is one of the factors responsible for the high level of awaiting trial detainees in Nigerian prisons. So, what typically happens is you are suspected of committing an offense, you're taken to a magistrate court. First of all, the police, most times, they do the charge. So they charge you with something as high as treason or murder or something very high, with capital offense. Capital offense is essentially that they know that magistrate courts don't have jurisdiction to entertain. So when they take you to a magistrate court, the court will say, I don't have jurisdiction. In the meantime, however, I remand you in prison custody, pending when the DPP will give us an advice, or pending when the AG would advise, or pending trial. So most of these people are then taken to prison, and then they are there languishing in prison. Some have been, their offenses they shouldn't spend a year or two in prison.
Yeah.
But you see them 7 years after, they are still awaiting trial. That's a factor responsible for the high number of awaiting trial detainees. As a clinic student, when I was in the university, we did a lot of visits to prisons and realized this. We did some advocacy work that ended up seeing maybe a few of them getting released. But that was when my eye opened to it. So that I have always known it's about 70 to 80% of those in prison are
simply waiting trial.
Awaiting trial.
Something else that's rather distressing that it talks about is the age range of the people that are sat in the prison. Majority of the inmates that are in there are between 18 and 25 years old.
We also had cases of people who were about 16. You know, the truth is, you shouldn't be in regular prison if you're less than 18. But the truth is, and I have to say it, most of the people who are taken to prison are not supposed to be there in the first place. So they lie about your age just because they want you in prison. So you end up there, most of them, like what the AG was saying here, some of them, their cases involve only fines. They've not been tried. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you discover that even if they were convicted, at least on the law, the punishment would be fine of 10,000 naira, 20, which they can't pay.
They can't afford.
So most times when those NGOs come around, they assist and pay those fines, and those people are released. The AG says between as low as 4,000 to 20. Well, for them, it's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And he does say that. He says a lot of these men can't afford it. So they're languishing in prison with violent offenders, causing problems, and people who will then perhaps go out and themselves become violent because of what they've been subjected to. from such a young age.
And that good thing he's mentioned here is that he talked about the provisions of non-custodial sentences in the current ACJ, that's the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. He's also asked other states, because the law has been passed. Lagos started in 2007. Others, the federation that's, at the national level also passed a similar. We have that act now since 2015. Other states are enjoying, because before now, the laws they've been using is the Criminal Procedure Act that's been there since long before we were all born.
I mean, so just before we step away from this, for time reasons, obviously we have to move on to other stories. He does issue a warning to the magistrates, and I wonder if this is
this from the chief judge of the
from the chief judge. Excuse me. Yes, exactly. From the this is going to be backed up with anything substantial, because he says, so people out there in Lagos know, he advised the magistrates to be careful with the kind of remand order that they issue, saying that as heads of courts, they must know what those under them are doing, because a lot of the inmates in prisons have no reason being there.
I agree with you. A lot.
So imagine if now it wasn't carried out in the first place, and we're complaining that the prisons are overpopulated. Anyway.
Well, let's hope it's not just by mouth. Well, we carry on. Our next story, speaking of by mouth, from the Vanguard newspaper, investigation of Adeosun certificate scandal is ongoing, says the presidency. Yeah. And now it is the first public reaction to the forgery allegation that was leveled against Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, and the presidency yesterday, that says, well, the allegations are still unproven, and saying that the presidency's assertions were immediately dismissed by opposition party, of course, which is to be expected. We are in an election year after all. But what are your thoughts on this, Gbolahan, about the fact the presidency is speaking out now? Is it a very, very late? What are your thoughts?
Well, it actually shows or illustrates the speed at which our government is actually operating, or the way at which they're working. We're talking 66 days now before the presidency has actually come out to make an official statement, or to make some sort of statement about this allegation that has been flying about for at least for 2 months now. And it's been said that there were certificates, she got an exemption certificate which was forged or so. There are two issues that we are currently dealing with. One of them is that should she have actually gotten the exemption in the first place, considering the fact that she didn't actually graduate from university at the age or above the age of 30. It was very clear that she actually graduated at the age of about 20 something or so. So number one, she shouldn't actually been handling that exemption. Secondly is the forgery incidents as well too. So when we look at this case anyway, what the presidency has actually said is that the investigation is an ongoing matter, and they can't actually give a time frame as to when the investigation will be concluded. I won't actually hold my breath on that then when we're talking about waiting for the investigation to be concluded. If it's taking 66 days for them to announce, it might take another 200 days as well too for the investigation.
Well, here's a question I have for you, Gbolahan. Do you think that there's any difference, or that it would matter very much because we're still not certain whether it was forged, right? We are concerned as to whether it was fraudulently obtained. Okay, and these are separate issues that I think sometimes the papers tend to mix up, because the NYSC itself, if it was forged, one would have believed that the NYSC would have come out outright and said, listen, this was forged. The problem is that there are discrepancies between when it was signed and when the sitting, exactly who actually signed it, because the sitting director at the time, I think, was supposed to have left the seat. And then obviously the secondary or the primary issue of the fact is, should she have been allowed to obtain an exemption if this was signed properly? So it's pointing to major issues perhaps for the NYSC if this turns out to be the former.
Well, if we look at it anyway, if you're talking about fraudulently obtained or forged, they all sound the same to me. Seriously, we're talking about somebody. It shouldn't have actually been an actual. Yeah, it shouldn't have actually been the person at desk that should have signed it. And it's someone else.
The reason I point to that is because culpability then lies in different places as well, right? Because if it was fraudulently obtained and the office itself had something to do with that, then a lot of the problem is with the office. Well, however, if it was forged, then she went out and found someone to.
I feel like if genuinely they want to investigate, this should be one of the fastest investigations that should be done. So it's a function of how genuine they are.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyways, let's move away from certificates and the genuineness and talk about certainly genuine passion. MTN sues CBN and the AGF over alleged $10.1 billion infractions. So that's the telco firm. They've gone to court over the alleged financial malfeasance leveled against them by the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Attorney General of the Federation. The Apex Bank had asked MTN to refund $8.1 billion that they said were illegally repatriated through 4 different banks, while the AGF, on the hand, wants the firm to offset a $2 billion unpaid tax and arrear fees incurred in the last decade. But they did put out a statement by their public relations manager saying that they've gone to court to protect their assets and shareholders.
Okay, this had already been a sensitive case before now. Now it's gone to court, so which order further restricts what I can speak so I don't fall foul of the
yes.
sub-judiciary rule. MTN has gone to court. The news broke about 2 weeks ago or so that AG had written to them. Then CBN AG.
Yes.
So there are 2 things here. So there's the 8.1 billion issue about illegally repatriated profits involving 4 banks, and then there's also the 2 billion unpaid taxes. So essentially, this story is that MTN has gone to court, and they've also issued a statement by, like you said, their corporate relations manager, who said the reason why they went to court. So that's just what I'm going to analyze. So they said they've gone to court to protect their assets and the rights of their shareholders within the confines of the law. Although what they simply said is that they've gone to court to get an injunctive relief. I'm not sure that's the full picture. I want to believe they've gone to court for the court to determine the full, because injunctions are really, I don't want to sound technical here. Injunctions are a part of the story, really. So there's a case in court. In the meantime, you're asking the court, please don't allow these people to come after me pending when this case is determined. So I want to believe that. I haven't seen the papers. I want to believe that what they've gone to court on. But they've also said that the reason they went to court is the whole thing is confusing. The whole thing is complex. And then that the regulatory agencies and those in government essentially have not helped matters here, because the CBN has written to them saying there's an infraction and the money should be returned to the coffers of the CBN. The Attorney General himself has also written to say no, not even no, a separate letter saying pay this money into an account called Asset Recovery Account of the Federal Government of Nigeria, which is strange to the CBN statutes. So essentially, we have different reactions from different government agencies. So themselves, they say we're not even sure who to obey now. And to even make it further, CBN has already, I understand, debited the accounts of the banks involved.
Yes.
Because there is MTN, then there are the 4 banks.
Absolutely.
So CBN, which is responsible for this, has already debited the 4 banks, while the AG is writing to the banks to say pay the money into these accounts. So that is the reason why MTN said that they have gone to court. I think it's actually very simple.
Yeah.
Let the court decide who is at fault, who should pay, and who the money should be paid to. I think it's actually as simple as
They certainly have to protect their shareholders there. They certainly do. All right, thank you very much for that, Orji. Coming over to you, Gbolahan, let's talk about this next story from the Premium Times. Kingsley Moghalu gets the YPP presidential ticket. It is official. Now, this story is a couple of days old, but I thought I would bring it up, considering that when you go through our politics section in papers, it's dominated overwhelmingly by 2 political parties, yes. But in this particular situation, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Kingsley Moghalu, well, he's emerged the presidential candidate of the Young Progressive Party. And it came about after the delegates election. So it was a delegates election at the party's first national convention and presidential primaries that happened in Abuja. He got 243 votes from 253 accredited delegates to beat his only opponent, Donald Iwegu, who stepped down for him. Now, it's very interesting going into this political space, and obviously we are coming up to the official dates for the elections. People are officially declaring candidacy. What are your thoughts about the political terrain as it exists at the moment, and whether we will see more people, gaining the public's interest outside of the 2 key political parties that everyone tends to talk about? And do you think it's important that this happens?
Well, I think it's very important that we have options anyway, other than the 2-party system that we currently have in place at the moment. When I look at Kingsley Moghalu, he has done extensively well in terms of covering the reach, broad and length and breadth of Nigeria anyway, before coming out to declare his intentions of running. it's a good initiative that he's actually come out to declare his intentions. I think he's worked at the CBN excellently well. He's done a fantastic job, and he deserves to run for presidency. The only challenge that I do have as well too is that I believe that when we're looking at a party and we're actually talking about Young Progressive Party, this is I'm not so sure if they have the national coverage as the other two major political parties as APC and the PDP.
Well, some would say it's a function of finance, right? And what's being pushed in front of our press and our media.
Well, maybe what we need to do then, we need to actually get a lot of people, just you and I, contribute a lot more to such parties as well, to bolster them and give them a little bit more finance.
In the interest of fair reporting, that's why I dug this up, because I'm going through several national papers, and I did mention this to Orji downstairs. We had an interesting conversation about it. The first 5 pages, in fact, all the pages, you find nothing except the 2 parties.
You see, as much as I like the idea of a breath of fresh air, okay, what the issue I have usually is, like he said, I don't feel like they have the requisite experience. I'm sorry to say about that, but the truth is, you need a little bit of inclusiveness. The realization or the reality that we have today in Nigeria is that we are divided along not just party lines, ethnic lines, religious lines, and somehow your party should be able to carry that along already at the beginning of the campaign. So normally you should be able to have enough presence in all the 6 geopolitical zones and the like. That's why, as much as I like us having new ideas coming through, I love the young people coming up, but if you're not able at the point of your party when you're doing your campaign, especially for the presidency, have a problem with that. If you're still a little bit restricted, I would have advised that you start locally. So if your presence at the time is southwest, like Abga did, Abga started from the southeast at the time. They won some seats, and somehow they're trying to beef up their strength.
For time reasons, I think we have to move on, but as a member of the press, I will say that what the press decides to put front and center is what tends to gain attention at the end of the day. So
yeah, besides
everyone started from somewhere.
Besides these other names that are known today, they had a first chance at a certain point.
But we have to move on because we literally have 10 minutes to get through the rest of
All right, so we have this next story. I'll come to Ayo with this next one, incidentally. So it's from Daily Times newspaper. The story reads, 2 die. 37 sustained injury in Nasarawa gas explosion. The reason for the explosion was not clear in this report, but residents of Lafia, Nasarawa state capital, on Monday they were woken up to the unfortunate incident of a gas explosion at a fuel station that's located in on Jos Road in Lafia, Nasarawa state. Take us through the story as we see that the governor of the state actually responded and commended the emergency services in that.
Yes, emergency services, and there were a couple of burnt victims also. 37 of them are receiving treatment in the hospital at the moment. 2 are dead. So that looks like better, shall I say, better response. Okay, but I would prefer that we don't have this kind of incidences, and
yes.
that's where I would like to come in. I don't think we have a very good HSC culture generally in
Health
the
and
culture.
safety.
Health and safety environment
Attitude,
in the country generally. If you have a fuel station, you'd expect them to have some level of procedures that will make sure that this kind of incidents don't happen. Now, explosions could happen, but if you follow the right procedures, normally you wouldn't have this kind of issues. And then, what kind of drills do they have in case of this kind of emergencies? What kind of drills do they have all those things then?
Well, I mean, considering the situation surrounding this report, it's apparent. It seems like it happened in the dead of the night before anybody woke up. So the only people you naturally find in such places would be the security guards.
Yeah, true. And then we have 37, meaning that there's also the possibility that the first station was probably close to maybe residential also,
areas.
And these are the things that we're talking about. There are rules already on ground where petrol stations should not be close to residential areas, but you still find this happening, even in a place like Lagos that we expect ourselves to be the elite,
Yeah. All right, thank you very much, Ayo, for that one. We'll move on to this next story. I'll come to you, Orji, for this one from Punch newspaper. Saraki, Atiku, Kwankwaso disagree over presidential ticket. So it seems like the People's Democratic Party, the board of trustees for that party, are asking the candidates to consider the possibility of having a consensus candidate. But the candidates are not smiling about that. Saraki, for one, said, nope, our rights should not be imprisoned. This will not work. And everybody else says, giving their own view on the matter. But a party that's divided within itself, what do you think? Where do you think they're going with this?
I don't agree. See, the headline, I do not agree with it.
Okay.
So the headline says Saraki, Atiku, Kwankwaso disagree over presidential ticket. I don't think it's a disagreement.
What do you think it is?
So you have a party where you have a number of presidential aspirants. They are all entitled to present their cases, to say I'm the person who is most qualified to defeat the incumbent president.
Yeah.
So at this time, all they are simply saying, because if you read the story proper, I'm not very sure there's a disagreement here. They are all given reasons why they should be the party's candidates. Saraki has said, look, I think this time it is the time for the North Central. And I think for fairness, for equity purposes, for the rule of law and all of that, I think we should, I should be the person. Or in fact, not even talk about himself, but he should be from the North Central. Because of course, I'm sure he knows that if he comes to the North Central, he stands a higher chance than the other persons involved.
Yeah.
Atiku on his part, and not Atiku in person, of course, Atiku's aides are also saying, no, I don't think this is an issue of consensus candidate for now. I think my candidate is the best person. He's a pan-Nigerian candidate. He's been there. He has this program and all of that. And then Kwankwaso on his part, the principal secretary is saying, no, if there's one person that can defeat President Buhari, it's Kwankwaso. So they are simply saying this is why it should be me.
So a mini debate before the main debate.
As they are entitled to.
Moreover, for the fact that they are even competing against each other, they are disagreeing on ideals, right? That's why they're going against us. So it's okay.
How it should be.
I don't think it's any form of.
All right. Thank you very much for that one. We'll move on to this next story from Vanguard newspaper. African leaders will laugh at Nigeria when they visit. Who's saying this? Presidency. And they're saying, first of all, underscoring some of the major problems we know that's very evident in our country right now, power supply for one. Gbolahan, looking at the reasons that they've given and outlining some other projects that they've successfully achieved or some that are still in process. What is this statement? What does it portend right now?
Well, it's spot on. I think, the statement, African leaders will laugh. They have been laughing for years anyway, every time they come. If you go to Ghana, for instance, and you look at the airports anyway, it's a completely different scenery compared to the Nigerian airports that we have here. And I only just learned as well that yesterday, the Ghana's airport is they're actually opening the third terminal. It's going to be commissioned September 15th now, and we've been talking about opening up our own terminal for how many years now, and the terminal actually took them about 2 years to complete. Ours, we've been at it for about 5 years now, and there's been a lot of issues with it. So of course it raises a lot of issues anyway in terms of infrastructure. When we're talking about electricity, we're talking about roads, we're talking about airports. So what our presidency is actually saying here is that they've gone to China to raise funds, which makes a lot of sense. They're borrowing at about 3%. I don't think you can borrow money at any cheaper than what you're currently getting. So it's an excellent move to borrow for infrastructure. However, we must be very, very careful to ensure that this money is actually being spent judiciously. There's a lot of allegation that we spent about $26 billion over the years on power, and we haven't actually seen the benefit of a dollar of that amount of money that has been spent. So if we're borrowing now, it's also our civic responsibility to hold our leaders accountable as well too. If they're going to borrow on our behalf, they have to ensure that they spend the money judiciously and they spend it in the right places. Investing in infrastructure makes a lot of sense. Over the long term, you get to pay back the money you borrowed as well. So it's a great initiative. Let's hope that they do spend the money.
Well, thank you, Gbolahan.
We got a few messages to get through very quickly up on our live stream. Olufemi Oyenuga says, interesting triple divided party. Saraki, Atiku, none of these people have a genuine love or interest for the nation. It's all about me leadership. We are still searching, says Dr. F.O. While we've got this one from Osai up on WhatsApp saying regarding the prison numbers review, the real question is what is going to be done about it. I think the magistrate should throw out such charges when they come before them, and if the police are serious about charging individuals, then let them appeal. Very interesting. Of course, somebody pointing out with regard to the political parties, saying that even in the States, the major political parties dominate the headlines in all those countries, and that no one paid much attention to the Green Party. We're not talking about dominance here at Trevor Noah's lapel pin. We're talking about awareness. It's very different here where there's simply no information, whereas in the States, you will find information, and it is out there. They're simply not the most popular choices. And finally, Iffy from Ikoyi says, we should not be looking for familiar or known candidates in these upcoming elections. We must give new entrants with the right credentials a chance. Kingsley Moghalu is informed and an educated choice, and for his presence to be effective, real professionals across the nations do need to chip in. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. ThisDay newspaper has this next story that we'll be taking a look at, and I'll come to you, Ayo, for this one. About the MPA Nigeria Ports Authority. They've denied allegations of fraud in the award of the $44.861 million for the Warri Channel dredging contract that was awarded to Dredging International Services Nigeria. They said in the allegation that was leveled against them, it was alleged that they are facing criminal charges in Switzerland, but they said no. The company says no, the ICN does not have any criminal charge in its coffers. That actually, it's one of the co-subsidiaries actually facing that legal battle, and it's not them.
So normally when you have a case like this, when you're doing the due diligence on such a big company, the moment you find out that they're kind of exposed, it's a red flag. But it's now the prerogative of the council or the board that is sitting to say it's okay to fly or not. Now, I don't know why they decided to go on with the company, but they did. What is interesting here is you find out that they said the major company which is bringing up this case is also in court with the just hold on. The other thing to say is that the company that has continued to promote this extensive blackmail of the NPA is part of the consortium whose contract was terminated for having claimed to execute works of $34.6 million, and that the Nigerian government is currently in court with the consortium seeking for a refund of $12.5 million. So it's looking like it's majorly because they terminated their contract and they're in court, that they're trying to blackmail them.
And another company got that contract.
And so they're saying that it's a kind of blackmail. How true this is, I don't know, but I know that one of the things that happens sometimes is when people lose their fund, of course, they begin to cry wolf. Now, if the due diligence was followed, I don't know the full details of what's happened in the boardroom, but I'm sure they must have followed some level of procedures before this contract was awarded.
All right, let's quickly segue into this next story from New Telegraph newspaper that reads, poor research output, 16 African universities to the rescue. So in the story, they said they were actually taking a look at the low research output from African countries, which contributes to 1% or contributes 1% of total global output. And then the 16 universities are coming together to conduct research to try to understand why these things are happening. Ayo, what are your thoughts on this story?
Well, it's a good one. But one of the things that still bothers me is Africa generally has a problem with poverty, and this is direct proportional to how much we show interest in education. The budget for 2018 was 7% again, a far cry from what was agreed by UNESCO for developing countries. And I remember then when I was University of Lagos, I studied mech engine, and then we're doing vortex flow, and the machine we were using, what they do is they come and they tell, okay, so normally when this machine was working, then the flow comes this way and it comes this way. So what's going to happen today is you take this data and then you plot your graph. Now if we expect to be doing researches, we need to have the infrastructures on ground. The government needs to invest more. Generally in Africa, you need to invest more in technology, in sciences generally, and then we can say we want to move forward.
Thank you very much, Ayo.
We are done with Freshly Pressed for this morning. Several messages are still here. Sorry, we haven't got time to read them all. But Chidozie did point out that that telco ought to have approached the tax tribunal and not the courts to start off with. And
that's for
Jide
the-
from VI asks about clarification. No, we can't answer you that. Sorry, that's not for us. But we're done with Freshly Pressed for this morning. Thank you to our analysts. Please continue the conversation online. Feel free to tag all of us. You can tag Mr. G Quest. You can tag Esho1, and you can tag Orji Uka, not to mention Valentine _Ohu.
And at Folu Storms.
Absolutely.
Coming up next, Lagos, we talk entertainment inside of the grapevine. It's at 8:15. Join us on YouTube. Type Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Good morning.
This MTN
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, what were you now saying? Like when the person said they should have taken it to the tax tribunal.
Okay, no. You know, the case is it's not just about the tax.
Yes,
It's also
yes,
the.
there's also
I
a
don't know
secondary
what
parts.
exactly they went.
I'm sure that, yeah.
No, that
Probably went
tax
to court.
tribunal thing does not differ from federal constitution, which is constitutional.
No, I don't think it does. I think maybe the person is just saying, well, if you had a tax dispute, why not address it in the tax?
We've had arguments several times. People say you should go tax tribunal. Yes, the court has jurisdiction, but the constitution has been federal court jurisdiction, so federal court can determine those cases.